People often say love is complicated. Well, I wish I'd thought about that before I got involved in this ridiculous love story. It all started when my close friend Barry asked me to help him write letters to his crush Cindy. You see, I'm a pretty good writer, and I know I'd get in trouble if people found out about this, but sometimes my classmates will pay me to help them with their homework, especially essays. So, anyway, when Barry asked me to help him win over Cindy, who he met when joining the play club of our school, of course I said yes. And no, I didn't charge him. I mean, he's my best friend after all. However, I had a plan. I'd been in love with my neighbor Alice ever since she moved in next door when we were kids, but I never had the guts to tell Alice how I really felt. Oh, and there was also one little problem. Alice had a serious crush on Barry. This was why I was so happy to help Barry win over Cindy. If Alice saw that Barry was no longer single, maybe she'd start noticing me, and then we could finally be together. So I agreed to help Barry. As I wrote that first letter, I just thought about Alice and the words came pouring out. The way her hair shimmered in the sunlight and her cute freckles. Thankfully, Cindy had freckles too. I wasn't sure if Cindy would like it, but the next day Barry found a reply in his locker. And so it went on. Every day I'd write a letter for Barry, and it was clear Cindy was falling in love with who she thought was Barry. But then one day Barry came running over to me and he looked worried. He said Cindy wanted to go on an actual date. He was freaking out because he said there was no way he could pretend to be smart and funny like he did in the letters. And then he told me she'd asked if they could recite poetry together, and that I'd need to train him somehow so he didn't give himself away. I would make it work. I had to, otherwise I'd never be with Alice. Just before Barry and Cindy's date, Barry was over at my place and I was trying to get him to practice reading some poems. He was terrible, but I couldn't tell him that. I just hoped Cindy wouldn't notice. When Barry left, he said I must follow him to his first date, in case there's any problems arose. I was about to go when Alice came in and said her family would go to a restaurant to celebrate her brother's birthday tonight, and they would like to invite me to go with them. Of course I agreed, I was close to her little brother. Then in a hurry I told her I had to go, and she asked where I was going. And I said I'd promised my mom I'd buy some groceries for dinner. I quickly jumped in my car and drove to where Barry was meeting Cindy. I told him I'd be nearby in case there was an emergency. From my car I can see into the restaurant and watch how the date was going. At first it looked good. I was so busy watching them, though, that I didn't notice Alice was standing right next to my car. When she knocked on my window, I got such a fright, I almost leapt out of my seat. She asked me what I was doing and where the groceries were. Suddenly, she glanced over the window where Barry and Cindy were sitting together. Oh no, she has certainly discovered something. While I was totally frozen, she turned back to me with her extremely stunned eyes. Are you stalking Barry and Cindy on their date? Then she climbed into my car and constantly questioned me in panic. What are they doing? Are they seriously dating? Why didn't I know anything about this? Geez, Cindy is my best friend. How could she? I was lost for words. She'd caught me. But then I asked her what she was doing here. She said that she was about to come and arrange the birthday party tonight, still angry. Anyway, as she was in my car, my heart started racing. Maybe this was my chance. Maybe I should tell her how I felt. As I turned to face her, I noticed she was looking at my phone. I quickly grabbed it, but it was too late. Barry had messaged me, and it had popped up on the screen. Help! What poem did you mention in your last letter? She's on to me! It seemed that Alice has understood all the story. She jumped out of the car so quickly I couldn't even stop her. She ran toward the restaurant and went straight up to Cindy. Barry had just gone to the bathroom, so he wasn't there. And as Alice told Cindy, I saw Cindy start crying. This was a disaster. And then the worst thing, Barry came back and Cindy started shouting at him. I quickly drove off. I couldn't bear to watch. This was all my fault. The next day, something crazy happened. I woke up and had a friend request from Cindy. I accepted her and she messaged me straight away saying she was seriously in love with me and she couldn't get my poems out of her head. I felt so guilty. What would she do if she found out I'd been thinking about Alice the whole time when I wrote them? No one knew about my crush on Alice, and I decided it was better to keep it that way. Now that Barry wasn't speaking to me, and Alice was so angry with me because of helping Barry. This was the worst situation ever. Even though Barry was upset with me, I'd never go behind his back and date Cindy. In fact, he couldn't find out that Cindy loved me. But later on, somehow Barry knew that Cindy loved me. He called me saying not only had I ruined his chances, I'd also stolen his love. Great, so I was suddenly the bad guy, when all I'd wanted to do was help out a friend. Neither Alice or Barry are speaking to me now. And at the same time, Cindy is constantly messaging me and always kept her eyes on me in school. I don't know what to do. I've lost my best friend and my crush, and instead gained a stalker. Hey, my name's Phil. I'm just a normal guy living my boring teenage life. Some call me a nerd. Well, yeah, I am a straight A student. I don't have many friends, probably because they're jealous of my grades, but that's it. I'm far from a nerd. I think I'm pretty cool, and I mean, I look okay, and I'm funny. If not, then the coolest kids in school wouldn't have invited me to their party, right? I guess every school has a group of popular rich kids. At my school, there was a group of 4 cool guys: Dylan, Mark, Jared, and Nick. They always have the latest iPhones, the best cars, and all the girls look at them with heart eyes. It started with Dylan. He was in the same Spanish class as me, and his grades were pretty bad. One day after class, he walked over to me and asked me to do his homework. In return, he would give me a ride home in his cool car. I agreed. The homework was a piece of cake anyway. That day, I got to sit in such a nice car for the first time ever. I enjoyed the ride as much as the admiration from all the girls as we drove away from the campus. Dylan got a good grade on his homework, so he told his friends. And they asked me to do their homework too. In exchange, I got to hang out with them. I didn't mind being a nobody at school, and I did have friends, but I couldn't deny that it was fun to hang out with the cool kids. I even got invited over to Mark's massive 3-story home. Mark is like the alpha. They always met up at his house, probably because his place was so amazing. He had a pool, gym, cinema, and a games room. Mark always ordered loads of pizza, and he never made me pay for it. Life was pretty amazing. I got to have a taste of the rich life. I knew I was still the outsider. Sometimes I'd walk into the room and they'd all fall silent. This made me feel a bit awkward, but I didn't think all that much of it. I mean, I was the new guy to their group. I guess they just needed a little time to get to know me properly. One day, this new kid at school called Kyle asked me to be his partner for a science project. He seemed a bit awkward. He was this big guy with an outdated style. His t-shirt was always tucked into baggy jeans. Hey, I know I'm not the most fashionable guy at school, but even I know this isn't a good look. Kyle didn't talk much about his family. I only knew that his parents were strict and didn't allow friends at home. He never even waited for me to walk to the bus station together. He just disappeared after school. Strange kid. But we both liked classic rock, which none of the other kids could relate to, so we clicked really fast. Meanwhile, I still hung out often with the cool kid squad. I also asked Kyle if he would like to join us, but he awkwardly refused. I presumed he didn't think he was cool enough. He did seem very interested in them, though, and asked me loads of questions. Every time I told him about what fun stuff I did with the squad, he seemed to brighten up and he asked me to tell him more. Poor guy. So I hung out with the cool kids more and bragged about everything to Kyle. Where we went, how they sometimes have red eyes and suffer mood swings, how I can never stay at Mark's place past 9 p.m. as they always have to do something, or about their continuous phone calls that they say are for sports betting and how they make me calculate and take notes for it. I really sounded like I was so close with them, and I was pretty proud of this fact. One time I was at Mark's and I walked back from the restroom to overhear them talking about throwing a big party at a club downtown the night after. "Oh, a party?" I asked. They looked a bit off, but then Mark stuttered, Yeah, you can come too." I was so excited. It'd be my first party ever. I might finally be able to find a girlfriend there. I rushed home to find my most fly outfit while I called Kyle to brag about it. Kyle didn't sound too excited for me. Instead, he was Mr. Serious, which was such a buzzkill. I put his attitude down to jealousy, but this kinda bugged me. It wasn't my fault he was shy and awkward. Now, let's talk about the club party. It was at this really trendy venue with an indoor pool, a diamond-encrusted bar, and there were beautiful women walking around in tiny bikinis. I was chilling in the VIP lounge with the boys, an exotic-looking cocktail in hand. This was the life. Out of nowhere, there was a loud bang as the cops suddenly burst in with guns. They told me to put our hands on our heads. I was terrified. I had no idea what was going on. I was shut in an interrogation room at the police station. I panicked. Was I in big trouble, even though I had no idea what I was in big trouble for? Then, Kyle entered the room, only he was wearing a police uniform. I stared at him in confusion and he just gave me an awkward look. Turns out Kyle wasn't actually called Kyle, and he wasn't a high school student. Instead, he was an undercover cop. I felt betrayed. Was he using me all this time? Did he frame me to arrest me? Was our friendship all fake? Then he told me that the four cool kids are actually related to a gang and are part of a drug trafficking chain. He went undercover to find the evidence he needed to arrest them once and for all. It turns out all my information had helped him do just that. He knew I was a good guy and didn't know anything about it, so he tried to pull me out of this ASAP before I sank deeper into it. I was free to go. He then introduced himself for real this time. His name was Sam. He was 24, and he was married with a daughter. I'm still friends with Sam, and even drop by his house now and again to play video games and listen to classic rock tunes. It does worry me that I unknowingly got the cool kids into deep trouble. Sometimes I wake up in the night and freak out that their families will come and punish me for what happened. Sam says I will be fine, as nothing is traceable to me. I still can't quite believe that hanging out with the cool kids ended the way it did. It's safe to say that I won't be agreeing to do anyone else's homework again. Although I may make an exception if a cute girl asks me. I do miss certain aspects about hanging out with the cool kids, such as the nice cars and their lavish homes, but I guess I'm okay with just being me.
Everyone seems to like Fridays, but I'm different. I hate Fridays. I work at a local bank. Trust me, that's not the kind of career where you get to sit comfortably all day and take care of generous customers. I'm stuck in a closed-off room all day, surrounded by stacks of paperwork. My butt is stuck in a hard chair for more than 10 hours a day. Too long, so now I have a herniated disc, spine, and neck issues. And even though I'm thin, my stomach is bulging. You're probably wondering why I just don't quit and find a more fulfilling job. Well, sometimes I think about it, but the money is pretty good, and, well, I have a family to support. The best thing about my job was the seriously hot bank lady I worked with, called Abigail. She was the most popular staff member there. Many customers came in just to chat with her. I know many of them would often flirt with her and secretly tip her, especially the middle-aged men. But it's obvious that she's just playing around with them. The person she really likes and actively flirts with is me. Even though I'm married, it's nice being flirted with by such a sexy lady. I have to enjoy the only pleasure in my workplace. But I will do nothing beyond the limit. Every day when she brought the documents to me, she always handed me a cup of coffee. She was the only one who praised my seahorse body, complimented the way I typed on my computer, and how I signed and stamped the papers that looked agile and charming. Processing paperwork for this girl always made me feel more inspired than for other people. I guess I'm a flatterer and needs compliments to add excitement to these boring white papers. She made my day at work more interesting. Fridays are our busiest day. There's usually a line stretching to the door of people wanting to cash in, get things signed, and old people wanting to chat with someone. But she made me regretful on that Friday, when I had to have a weekend off and return to my messy home. Yes, the house I lived in with my little family was completely a mess. On the days of the week, I often came home very late after work, so my wife and kids were already in bed. The weekend was different. Babysitting them on the sofa was enough to drive me crazy. The kids had endless energy, and I just wanted to pretend to die. I would shout out, "Don't do it," every 5 minutes, though sometimes I wouldn't even notice what they were doing. They kept snitching on each other, and I couldn't understand what the hell they were fluttering about. So I just kept saying, "Yes, that's so," and then what? My wife does look like a ghost. Dark circles, scruffy clothes, messy hair, and talking to her is just as chaotic as the kids. I just wanted to go to work, sit quietly in my few square meters of room filled with papers, and occasionally be sweetly stroked by Miss Abigail. It was clear that Abigail liked me. She always made me exactly the type of coffee I prefer. A splash of milk with 2 sugars, which my wife couldn't even seem to manage. Then the Post-it notes started. Abigail stuck them on my coffee mug, with compliments on them such as, "Good aftershave choice," and "You look cute today." This was flattering, and there was no denying that she was an attractive woman. But I was a married man, so I pretended not to notice the notes. Once I was trying so hard to ignore a note that said, "Your lips look kissable," with a lipstick mark on my coffee mug that I knocked my coffee over. It went all over my shirt and paperwork and made a right mess. Guess who was the first person to rush over with a napkin and help dab me down? Yeah, Abigail. She would deliberately walk behind me so she could squeeze my shoulder. She stroked my hair and even deliberately crouched down as I arranged the papers so that her huge breasts were super close to my face. I knew that I couldn't afford this high-end item. So I just let her do whatever she wanted and didn't dare to take the initiative. One Friday night, we were the last two people in the building. She came into my room, sat down on my lap, and started fiddling with my tie. I was like a frozen rabbit in headlights. I came to my senses and shoved her off me. I knew that if I let her continue, then things would get out of my hands. She hugged her head tiredly and told me to finish the paperwork quickly. I awkwardly stamped a bunch of papers without even looking over them and collated the number on the computer. She always made no mistake. And in such an awkward situation, I should quickly relieve both of us. The following day, Abigail was completely cold to me. I was also very sad and found it empty, but what else could I do? I had a wife and 2 kids. I had to think about them over my own desires. But just a month later, disaster struck me. The branch manager burst into my room with a stack of papers. He said something about how I stamped and passed a large payment, and asked me where the money went. Those papers were what I'd sealed in my delusion last month. I've worked there for many years. They believed me when I said it was an accident. Now I have to pay back the money, else I lose my job and end up blacklisted. No reputable firm would ever hire me again. I sold my house and all my assets to pay off the debt, and moved to a small house, like a cave. The space is too small, so I can't avoid my kids or now my very angry wife. I felt like I was sitting motionless and petrified on this sofa, between the sound of my wife grumbling and the sound of my 2 little boys snitching on each other. And all I can think about is Abigail's sweet smile and the sexy way she walks. Being the good guy caused me nothing but trouble, but perhaps I could have done more. I should have put a stop to Abigail's antics sooner, and then she wouldn't have distracted me and I wouldn't have signed my life away. It's all a big mess, and it looks like I'm stuck in my boring job forever. One thing for sure, I can safely say that I still hate Fridays. But I hate all other days just as equally now too.
Yes! Headshot! Go cry to your mama! You're probably wondering who this gaming pro is. Well, that's me. Yes, it's 3 a.m., and I've been playing for 9 hours straight, but time sure does fly when I'm gaming. I'm Cooper, by the way, and I live with my wife Amelia and our baby girl Ara. I wanted to call her Zelda, but my wife said no way. I love gaming, and always thought it would be there to save me, but instead, it almost cost me everything I love. It started back when I was a little kid. My parents argued a lot, so I used to make a fort in my room, switch on my Nintendo DS, and escape into a virtual world. This love of games continued as I grew up. I didn't socialize or anything. Instead, I rushed home from school and went straight on my Xbox, PlayStation, or PC. I didn't have any real friends. Nope. The only kids I spoke to were ones I gamed with. Then I graduated from college and ended up with a job as a system engineer for a big tech company. Geez, it was exhausting. By the time I got home, I was so tired I could barely keep my eyes open, let alone game. So, I put my gaming equipment in the basement. But then everything changed when I bumped into Amelia in a local coffee house. Whoa. She was the most beautiful girl I've ever seen. I guess she must have seen something she liked in this goofball, as after dating 6 months, we got married. I know. Crazy, huh? Soon after, she fell pregnant. I was excited but also terrified. How did that happen? I mean, I know how it actually happened, but whoa. Me? A dad? Then, when Ara was born, my life turned completely upside down. You see, babies cause a lot of stress. Did you know that the quickest way to get a child's attention is to sit down and look comfortable? Because every time I did that, she started to cry. Work sucked, and then my home life sucked too. There was no escape. I felt like I was going to explode. So I went down to the basement and set my PC up. I started playing World of Warcraft. It felt incredible to be a druid again. The thought of gaming kept me going at work. Then when I got home, I barely acknowledged my wife and daughter and rushed down to the basement to play games. Amelia wasn't happy about it. She often appeared with a crying Ara and told me to take her. But I just grunted out "I'm busy," then carried on with my game. Hey, she was the one at home all day while I worked my butt off. All she needed to do was take care of the baby and keep the house clean. Easy. I told her this, and she got mad and made me sleep on the couch. Great. No, I mean really great. I could play video games all night long. Awesome. But it turns out it's much easier to game all night when you're in high school and can catch some Z's at the back of the class. But not so easy when you have a taxing job. I was on level 100 of exhaustion. So it wasn't surprising that I ended up messing up at work and got fired. Amelia was furious and demanded I apply for other jobs. Nah, I didn't want to. I mean, hello? No more early mornings, no more deadlines, no more cranky boss. It was just me and my beloved games. On one occasion, I was heading toward a record high score when suddenly Amelia appeared and blocked the screen. Babe, you need to move. I jabbed at the game console as I desperately tried to peer around her. No, she shouted at me. What's happened to you, Cooper? You look like Gandalf, only the homeless version. You hadn't taken a bath and shaved for weeks. You're killing me here. Now I'm dead. Thanks a lot. I slammed my fist onto the table. That's it. Get out. She yanked on my arm. I can't take this anymore. Get out. She actually kicked me out of my own home. That crazy woman. I didn't have any friends, so I ended up at my parents' house. This was so humiliating. I told them that it was just Amelia being hormonal, but they said she told them all about my gaming obsession, and it had to stop. They'd signed me up to be some guinea pig for an experimental treatment program in Hawaii. Hey, maybe a beach vacation didn't sound so bad, right? But nope. The island was literally in the middle of nowhere. Where was the hotel? All I saw were tiny huts with grass roofs. What? They couldn't expect me to stay here. This instructor guy called Cole gathered the group on the beach and gave us a rundown of the rules. We'd be camping here for the whole month, without any digital devices. We also had to follow a strict diet and exercise plan. Are you kidding me? I felt like I'd been sucked into a survival game and the escape button was busted. Everybody else started building their tents side by side. Socializing wasn't really my thing, so I built my tent away from them by the sea. It was hungry work and my stomach was rumbling. So I asked Cole when dinner was ready. He told me it was my job to make a fire. Then he passed me a note with instructions. 1. Gather dry wood. 2. Create a fire structure. 3. Light the fire by using the hand drill method. Okay, sounded easy. Dang it! I've been spinning this for about 20 minutes now. Where's the damn fire? I was about to give up when I suddenly saw something glowing. Oh my god, it worked! But then I felt a sneeze and couldn't hold it. Oh no, there goes the ember. In the end, this one guy pushed me out of the way and lit the fire in a few minutes. What a show-off. I was licking my lips in excitement when I saw Cole bringing out some food, but disappointedly, he passed me a plate of veg. What? I shouted out, "Where's the freaking chicken?" Cole pointed at the white thing on my plate. It's chicken breast. No, that's not chicken. Where are the wings and the breadcrumbs? He rolled his eyes. It's called clean eating. Get used to it. This place was a nightmare. But a good night's sleep would make me feel better, right? Wrong, as the ground was as hard as rocks. Finally, I fell asleep, only to wake up with soggy feet. Oh no, my tent was flooded. No wonder nobody else chose to camp next to the ocean. Island routine was awful. It was full of dumb group activities such as meditation, beach soccer, and hiking. One day we even had to build a raft. As usual, I tried my best to avoid working and socializing, but there's no way they'd leave me alone, so I reluctantly participated. After it was done, we tried it out, but it soon capsized, and I was the only one that couldn't swim. Everyone immediately rushed over and saved me. I was so touched and felt ashamed that I've been so self-centered. So after that, I actually tried to put myself out there and be more sociable. And not gonna lie, it was not too bad. Then our evenings were spent sitting around the campfire and listening to everyone drone on about their problems. My turn was easy for me because I had no problems. The problem was my wife, not me. She didn't understand that I had a lot of pressure at work and home, so playing video games was my only escape. Everyone tutted and glared at me. Then a guy named Brad said, "That's not cool, bro. To be honest, I was the same way. I was addicted to watching sports and refused to help my wife out. So we switched places, and I learned how hard caring for the kids and looking after the house is. I knew I needed to change before I lost my family forever, so that's why I joined the program." Poor guy, but this wasn't the same for me, was it? I don't know, maybe I had been a little unfair on Amelia. I was thinking about this as I walked back to my tent when this girl named Brittany caught up with me. She put her hand on my shoulder and flicked out her hair. Was she, flirting? I waved my wedding ring finger in front of her, but she just shrugged and said, "I don't see your wife here. Come to me when you change your mind." Then she walked away. Geez, this girl was crazy. Kinda hot, but still crazy. The next day, I unzipped my tent, ready for another day in this nightmare. But what was this? Huh? It was kinda beautiful here. It was like I was seeing it for the first time. The sparkling sand, swaying palm trees, lush tropical plants, and endless sunshine. Amelia and Aura would love it here too. I hope they'd both forgive me. I really did miss them. By the end of the month, I didn't want to go home and play games anymore. Instead, I wanted to hug my family and never let them go. The day before we left, Cole rewarded us all with a 1-minute phone call. As much as I wanted to hear Amelia's voice, I was kinda nervous. I hoped she wasn't mad at me anymore. The phone started to ring, but some guy picked up. I asked where Amelia was, but he said she was in the shower. Then the line went dead. My 1 minute was up. Who was that dude? Was she having an affair? We were still married. And we have a child together. Furious, I ran into Brittany's tent, wanting to get back at my cheating wife. Brittany came toward me and was about to kiss me, but I couldn't go through with it. So I dodged out of the way, mumbled out sorry, then hurried out of there. The next day, I finally got off the island, and I went straight home to confront Amelia. I opened the door to see a man standing there holding my little Aura. How dare he? I yelled out, "Get away from my daughter!" Suddenly, Amelia appeared. "Cooper, stop! It's Rob!" I processed this information. Oh wait, he was Rob, her half-brother. Oops. I'd never met him before as he'd been living abroad. I quickly muttered out an apology to him. How embarrassing. I noticed Amelia was giving me this weird look. Then she said, "Wow, Cooper, you look so different." Oh yeah, before we were sent home, each of us were treated to a little makeover. A new haircut, new clothes, and a shave. And the clean eating and exercise meant I'd lost 20 pounds. Guess Amelia just couldn't resist this new hottie in town. She went straight for one big hug. So, in the end, Amelia forgave me for being a massive jerk. Now I have a new job. It's pretty boring, but I enjoy coming home and spending time with my family. As for gaming, I still do it, but in moderation. Only Tuesdays and Thursdays, but I make sure I switch it off by 10 p.m. Then I go and cuddle my wife. The gaming world is great and all, but I've come to learn that there's something even better in life, and that's making memories in the real world with my girls.
5, 6, 7, 8. Wow, honey, you're so good. Oh no, now I'd lost count. How long had she been standing there for? Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to startle you. Can you teach me some moves? I hesitated, but I didn't want to sound mean, so, sure, Carol, come in. I'll show you some of the basics. I did some simple moves for her to follow, but, oh man, she was awful. Seeing an out-of-shape, middle-aged woman attempting front lunges and high Vs isn't something you see every day. But I did appreciate that she was putting the effort into getting to know me. Oh, sorry. You must be wondering why I was calling my mom by her first name. Well, she's actually not my mom. She's my stepmom. You see, my mom passed away when I was 10. Then last year, when I turned 15, Dad started seeing someone again with help of a matchmaker. And he thought it was important for me to have a mother figure, and that's how we ended up marrying Carol. I enjoyed having bonding time with Carol, but it quickly became kinda uncomfortable. She watched me practice my cheerleading moves every night, started up conversations about the boys at my school, and she insisted on binge-watching TV series with me. Yeah, you all must know how awkward it is having an adult sitting next to you while there's some romantic kissing scene on the screen, right? Jesus, I needed my privacy. Then one time, I arrived home from school to find her in my room, going through my makeup. Donna, sweetie, how exactly do you use this? Okay, so this was a bit too much. She's crossing some lines here, messing around with my stuff without asking, but I couldn't bring myself to get mad at her either. You see, Carol is the definition of an ideal housewife. She's such a kind-hearted woman, and she always kept the house immaculate and cooked delicious meals. Maybe she spent so much time doing this that she didn't have any time to take care of her appearance? Hey, everyone deserves to feel beautiful, right? So I showed her how to apply makeup. Carol, you do so much for Dad and me, so I think it's about time you treated yourself. How about we go to the mall tomorrow? I would love to. I thought I was doing something nice for her. Little did I know, this was the start of something crazy. The next day at the mall, I took her into a clothing store where women her age shopped. I held up a nice blouse, but she shook her head. Then, to my utter dismay, she insisted we go into the Pull&Bear store next door. But Carol, that's for teenagers. But she still marched us in there. Then she pointed at an outfit and asked me if I could try it on for her. I wanted today to be about her, not me. But okay, as long as she's happy. I stepped out of the dressing room and twirled, and the store staff immediately complimented me. Then Carol suddenly turned to the staff and asked them to get the exact dress in size XL. What? Was she going to wear that too? Carol coyly stepped out from behind the curtain and asked, "So, what do you think?" I froze for a moment. I mean, look at her. She looked ridiculous, but I couldn't tell her that, so I reluctantly gave her a thumbs up. And just like that, Carol bought us both the exact same dress. But there's more. She suggested that we both wear them right now, while we were still in the mall. I spluttered out, shouldn't we save them for a special occasion? But her mind was made up. So, there we were, daughter and stepmom walking through the mall in matching dresses. I could feel all eyes were on us. We even ran into one of my friends, and she mistook Carol for my cousin. At least, that was until she saw Carol's face. That poor girl looked like she'd just seen Annabelle. Carol sure was flattered, as on the way home she beamed as she said, "To think, your friend thought I was your cousin. I should dress like you more often. It takes years off me." And I kid you not, she actually meant it. From that moment onward, she started dressing like a teenage girl. Or, to be precise, like me. Exactly like me. Apparently, I was the only one finding it weird in the house, because my dad said nothing. I needed to talk to her, or else someone at school would see me and make fun of me. So that evening, I went downstairs to see Carol sitting on the couch reading some magazine. I took a deep breath and said, Carol, can we? Oh, hi, sweetie. Look, I'm choosing a cake for your upcoming birthday party. I hope that's okay. Oh no, why is she always so sweet and kind? This made me feel so bad. She's doing so much for me, and all I do is complain. So obviously, I didn't bring up the subject of her copying my style. That's just trivial, right? Instead, I sat next to her and we talked about the birthday party. Then she showed me some pretty dresses on her phone and asked me to pick one for my party. I really like this one. Carol smiled. Oh, that looks lovely. Great choice, sweetie. Imagine how stunning we'll look in these. We? Oh no, not again. It had to be now or never to talk to her about this. Carol, I don't think we... But at that exact moment, my dad arrived back from work. What are you two still doing up so late? Before I could say anything, Carol ran over to him. Donna and I are going to wear this dress on her birthday. What do you think? Great. Anything that makes my ladies happy. I couldn't go through the humiliation of being dress buddies with Carol for one more time. On my special day, I needed to do something. I had a plan, but the timing had to be faultless. So, on the day of my party, when Carol was ironing her dress, I rushed in and told her that the delivery guy had just dropped off the wrong cake. Carol freaked out and ran downstairs immediately. Ha! It worked! Now, let's get started. And, well, 10 minutes later, as expected, we all heard a loud scream coming from upstairs. Dad and I rushed in and saw Carol sitting on the bed crying into the dress. Darling, what's wrong? She held up the dress. Look, it's ruined! There was an iron-shaped burn mark on it. Yep, you guessed it. It was all me. When Carol left the room, I turned the iron's temperature to max. My God, I really had to pinch myself trying not to laugh. But suddenly, Carol turned to me and in a serious voice said, "You need to change to another dress." What? She can't be serious, right? It's okay, Carol. You can just wear another dress. I don't mind. No, it's not okay. We've planned this. Go get the blue one that we both have. Listen, I don't think we should dress the same. It's just weird. Then my dad jumped in. There's no time to argue. The guests are already waiting downstairs. So, Donna, go get changed. Ugh, unbelievable. It was so embarrassing. All my relatives were complimenting us, but I knew they were really laughing inside. My friends, on the other hand, were sniggering and telling me we looked like a budget version of the Olsen twins. I thought that day was already a nightmare, but then it got extremely annoying when she even started to copy my behavior. One evening, my boyfriend Thomas came over and we were all eating pizza in the living room. I took a bite and said, "OMG, delish!" And the next thing I knew, Carol was quoting those words of mine as she sipped on her Diet Coke. Cringy! Then later, when Thomas had to leave, I walked him to the door and I squeezed his cheeks as a cute little goodbye, since we couldn't exactly kiss or anything in front of my parents, obviously. But guess what? Just under 5 minutes later, Carol suddenly sat closer to my dad and did the exact same thing to him. It was so weird, and my dad wasn't really impressed either. But here comes the worst part. A few days later, my friend had sent me a link to Carol's TikTok account. Oh my days! It was a video of my dad, and it had thousands of likes. Then suddenly I heard noises coming from downstairs. "Carol? Carol!" Carol scampered out of the kitchen looking clueless. "What's wrong, honey?" "What's wrong? My colleague just sent me a video of you playing a prank on me. Everybody has seen it. Even my boss, my customers, everyone. How am I supposed to go to work now? Ruining my career. Is that what you want? So much for being an accident." Yep. The video I was talking about was this one, where Carol baked a fruitcake for my dad and then smashed his face into it. Then, when he looked up, he had 2 strawberry slices stuck to his eyes. He kind of looked like that creepy clown from the movie It. She uploaded it on her TikTok account, and it instantly got viral. I played that prank on my friend a while ago at our slumber party, but I didn't expect that Carol would copy it. "Get out of my house!" My dad's shout took me aback, while Carol burst into tears and begged, "Please, honey, don't do this. I'm sorry." But my dad didn't listen and just told her to pack and stay out of his sight immediately. As she started to move, I grabbed her arm. "Carol, wait. I know that you've been copying my clothing style and my behavior, and now this TikTok. But you must have a reason for that, right?" Carol nodded, so I calmed Dad down, and we sat down with her as she sobbed out, "My first husband often made fun of my dreary appearance. He even banned me from going to his family events, as he said the way I looked was embarrassing for him. Then eventually, he couldn't stand looking at me anymore, so he handed me the divorce papers. Now I'm with your father. I worry he too will get irritated by my looks, and I'll be abandoned again. But he adores you. Therefore I thought that if I tried to be more like you, then he'd adore me too." My God! Carol's ex is such a jerk! How could anybody want to get a divorce just because their partner didn't have the best dressing sense? I hugged her tightly and said, "Nobody's going to abandon you. You're a part of this family. But how about we find you a new style of your own, instead of copying mine, okay?" Carol nodded at me with a light smile while still sniffling. My dad eventually calmed down, apologized for overreacting, and came over to join us in the hug. So, after that, I started helping Carol with the house chores so she had more time to spend on herself. I showed her how to style her hair, helped her pick out some stylish clothes, and sent her the links to some videos on makeup tips. Now she has her own chic image going on. She kind of reminds me of Martha Stewart. I always thought my stepmom was bonkers, but turns out everyone's got their own story, right? And we should get to know them first before jumping into any conclusion. Everybody should feel good about themselves, and no one should ever make them feel otherwise.